Let's get across the market open now. Henry Jennings joining us from Marcus today. Henry, happy Easter to you. Hope you had a great break. Of course, now we're refocused on what is a shortened trading week. Look, SPI Futures indicating we're going to get a positive start. I'm not convinced though, are you, after what we saw on Wall Street?
Well, SPI Futures, good morning, Andrew. SPI Futures are reflecting what happened on Thursday in the US. So that was Friday morning our time. SPI Futures were actually closed on Friday for Good Friday and Easter Monday, whereas the US market was open on Easter Monday. So we have got a little bit of catch up to do. So I'm certainly not convinced those SPI Futures are going to be any kind of reflection on the market performance today. So it'll be interesting to see how we do perform. There certainly is money rushing out of the US at the moment. We've seen that. And we've seen, it was a pretty low volume day for the market. It was down, nearly 1,000 points, I guess, with Donald Trump trying to rid himself of his own turbulent priest, being Jerome Powell as head of the Fed. And poor old Jerome, I do feel sorry for him. I think he should be going to HR and talking to them about bullying and harassment. I think he's got a pretty good case there for workplace harassment from his, I guess not really his boss, because the Fed are independent. But certainly, there has been moves in the past. FDR tried to sack the head of the Federal Reserve back in the 30s, but it has been set up in 1913 as an independent body. So it gets hard, but it's certainly not a good look, and it certainly upset the US market. And we did see US stocks falling and US bonds as well falling, and those rates rising, 10-year yields rising pretty close to where we saw those danger levels before we saw the last Trump backflip. So it's going to be an interesting week, I think, Andrew. And of course, we're closed on Friday as well, where the US market is open.
Yes, as you say, it's a compressed week we've got here. But yeah, those comments from Donald Trump, amazing, really, calling Jerome Powell a loser. But as you say, market's very concerned about the independence of the Fed Reserve. As you mentioned, they did see the US dollar tumble as a result. Gold getting another bid too, of course.
Yeah, gold's going very well. I guess that's been the big winner, hasn't it? Crypto as well had a little bit of a blip higher, but gold really has been the big winner, and the central banks are replacing to some extent some of their US dollar exposure with gold exposure. So that has been the big winner. I think we got to 53.40 odd in terms of Aussie gold pricing, which is pretty extraordinary, really. And that really has been the motor. So I would imagine we're going to see some positive reaction again today for the golds. Although, looking at Newmont overseas last night, it wasn't particularly stunning in terms of performance. I think it was only up around 0.2%. Barrick up 1.3, and Anglo Anicho Eagle was up 1.5. So we did see a little bit of positivity in the gold, but nothing like what you would expect with gold where it is. So it could be a good day for gold, I have to say. So happy with that, must admit. I've got a bit of gold exposure, so that is good.
Now, on the corporate front, look, fairly quiet, certainly data-wise this week locally. Look, we have got some news from Macquarie looking to sell its North American and European public asset management businesses.
Yeah, this was quite an interesting move, isn't it? Macquarie selling its entire North American and European asset management business, as you say, to Japan's Nomura for 2.8 billion. It will continue to operate in Australia, but they are certainly moving more towards, the private equity side of things than the public side of things. So that is, I guess, it's quite an interesting move. 2.8 billion is no small change, and it is a pretty big deal. These assets were acquired back sort of 15 years ago as part of the Delaware investments business, and really gave them that foothold in the US. But it looks as if at the moment they're trying to push into the private credit business, and they're already sort of lent around 22.5 billion for that business. So that is a positive. But I'm not sure how the market is going to react to this one, I have to say, bearing in mind Macquarie is kind of that leverage play on equity markets. I think last week, back pre-Easter, before my brain got sort of fuddled with chocolate and bunnies, I think we were talking about Macquarie last week, and I had it sort of a buy around these levels. I'm not sure now whether it remains in that camp. I'd have to wait and see how things pan out. But it is an interesting move. 2.8 billion for that business, and that push into private equity or private credit business should well, we'll see how it works out. But yeah, it's been around that business. It's been a linchpin, I guess, of Macquarie for some time.
Yeah, indeed. Henry, on the energy front, of course, those prices remaining under pressure. Just looking at a bit of news out this morning too.
Yeah.
Yancoal reporting a 19% drop in its thermal coal sales. Also news in the uranium space as well. I mean, those spot prices under pressure, but Deep Yellow is saying that given those prices, doesn't justify further development at this point.
No, well, I guess it doesn't. And the problem with uranium and those spot prices is it's a very, very thin market. It's not a great guide to where uranium is because a lot of uranium contracts are done on a very long-term basis. Unfortunately, the spot price does influence the people buying those contracts and locking in those contracts for the long term. So that is certainly hampering uranium. And when you talk to the experts in uranium, it is one of the metals which people are talking about in terms of the supply demand side of things, actually skewed in favor of higher prices, but we've yet to see that come through. And I guess when you get a project like this being delayed, and that's the flagship project for Deep Yellow, and there's a massive, massive short position in this one as well. That is not a good sign, I guess, for the outlook for uranium. It doesn't send a lot of confidence, and at the moment, it certainly looks like the shorts have really much won the day in terms of those uranium stocks. So, yeah, it's that even though this morning with the announcement they're talking about robust results, but that's a price, a spot price of $82.50 US for the 2-mass project for uranium oxide. So, at 65 in the spot market per pound, we're a fair way away from that at the moment.